Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's broadcast where I'm talking about language facilitation as usual. But today I'm going to be really answering some questions that I've been getting lately from parents and speech pathologists about what language facilitation is. So the first one is I'm going to answer what is language facilitation. And then I'm going to talk about what research or evidence is language facilitation based on. And then also I'm going to talk about how language facilitation is different from speech therapy. And I'm going to talk about who can benefit from language facilitation and how parents can learn how to do language facilitation. And I'm also going to talk about why language facilitation and waves of communication works better than other parent coaching programs. And I'm also going to talk about why more and more parents are leaving ABA, PECS, and conventional therapy to take on language facilitation themselves. So first I'll get started by introducing myself. My name is Marcy Melzer, and I am an intuitive speech and language pathologist. That means that I am a speech pathologist by training who is also intuitive, and I help my parents who I work with use their intuition to help their children use more words as one of the strategies that we use in our Waves of Communication parent coaching program. And I use language facilitation, this method that I have come up with, to coach parents in how to help their children learn how to use words naturally. And so that's who I am, and this is what I've done. And today we're going to talk about it and sort of tell you more about what language facilitation is. I'm just going to get settled here and dig in. So language facilitation, if I had to come up with a definition for it, it is a method for parents to teach their children how to develop language in easy, happy, safe, and fun ways. And it uses strategies that I have learned over 30 years of clinical practice as a speech and language pathologist. And so that's pretty much what it is. It is actually the model, the method that the parents use to teach their children. That's what language facilitation is. And so what you might want to know, or what other people have been asking me, is what research or evidence is language facilitation based on? So basically the strategies that I coach parents in, because language facilitation is used by parents to facilitate language with their kids. I keep saying that because what I do is I coach parents in how to use language facilitation and become language facilitators. But the method that they use is what we're talking about here today, which is what language facilitation is. And so language facilitation comes from a variety of different evidence-based areas. And so there are different ways. The American Speech and Hearing Association says that evidence can be proven, because evidence-based means that the method that you're talking about has been proven to work, which is really what every parent should have as a standard about any kind of intervention that you work with ever. So if it isn't language facilitation, if it is PECS or ABA or any of those things, every parent, I believe, should scrutinize any kind of treatment method or modality that they certainly are going to use, like language facilitation. Family values as being, a factor in a family's decision to base their evidence of, does this work? Like, is that something that resonates with me? Because sometimes different modalities may or may not resonate with your individual values as a family. And so you need to, as you evaluate any practical intervention method before you take it on, just like the American Speech and Hearing Association, you as parents should evaluate it with the same level of scrutiny, no matter what you're using, whether it's language facilitation or not. And so I kind of had that big description so that when I explain my rationale, you'll understand where the evidence or basis for language facilitation comes from. And so now we're going to get into that and tell you exactly. So the strategies that are involved in this method that parents use to teach their kids are based on, I have a number of different approaches and methods that have been studied and documented, and the articles again are listed in the description of this video, so you can check them out now, or if you're watching the replay, they're definitely there. So the first one is social interaction based interaction. So interaction that's based on social interaction, and that's what it's called, social interaction based interaction. All right, and then there is play based interaction, because parents are using language facilitation in social environments and dealing with social interaction with them and their kids, and also facilitating language socially between kids, their kids, and other people. And then that's the social interaction. And then play-based interaction is when the modality is used in play, and there's lots of research about that, also an article below. And then social communication interaction is another method that has been tested to show to work. And social communication is kind of the combination of social interaction and communication and play-based interaction, but adding the communication component to it. So you're teaching kids not just how to socially interact, but socially communicate with each other. So that's social and communication. And then some sort of speechy terms that you may know, if you are a speech pathologist watching this, that you'll know that we use a lot as a strategy. A very common early language development strategy is auditory bombardment. And then another one is recasting. And then some more play-based interventions that also have been studied are things called transactional model of development, sort of the fancy way of saying social communication. Because it stresses the biodirectional communication exchange between people. That's why it's called transactional model of development, because it deals on communication transactions, okay? And it also, the transactional modality follows the child's focus. So instead of the interventionist directing the child, it's the child who directs the focus, and the interventionist uses this transactional model of development to help them communicate. It sounds very complicated, but this is the science behind it. All right, and then the other one, the other component of this transactional model of development is to provide verbal input that is relevant to the child's current activity. So it's kind of a multi-step situation. You're focusing always on bidirectional communication that is generated from the child's focus and the activities that they are doing, and then you as the interventionist will facilitate language, provide verbal input that is relevant. So basically talk about what's going on when your child starts it. And then, of course, parent coaching is a significant portion of any kind of speech pathology interaction. And every speech therapist who is working with children should be incorporating parent coaching into their intervention with you and your child. And then the sort of gold standard of parent training that, I think all of these programs were founded on, including language facilitation and waves of communication, is the DIR floor time model. And that was invented by Dr. Stanley Greenspan and his team, and his son is using it now, and there are schools all over the country that are founded on the DIR floor time model. So those are the kinds of, if you want to compare language facilitation to anything, any other evidence-based of parent coaching models, because it is a parent coaching situation, language facilitation, those are the ones that you can compare it to. Now, specifically about language facilitation, I have my own data because, you know, if you want to research all about those other ones, you'll see studies that talk all about their efficacy and why. I don't have any gold standard studies for waves of communication. It's been in existence in its current form since January of 2018, okay? So of the 20 families who have been in the program for at least 3 weeks, 18 out of 20 of those families have seen new verbal expression, okay? 20 out of 20 of those families have seen new comprehension and ability to follow directions, eye contact improvement, social interaction with their parents. So in these data are identified by parents as they respond to survey questions and information that I ask them in their follow-up meetings. So every family has a meeting after the first week. And in 18 out of 20 of these families, within the first week, families indicated anywhere from 1 new word to up to 40 new words and phrases within the first week of the program. The 2 children who didn't see new words expressed themselves within the first 3 weeks are children who have lower receptive, they have lower reciprocity, like they're not consistently responding to their names, they're not doing, you know, they're not engaging in regular kinds of communication verbally at all. These are kids who were, you know, almost silent. And now they're babbling and making sounds that sort of emulate words, but they're not necessarily counted as words by their parents. And again, this is data that comes from the parents to me. So as far as language facilitation, it's working pretty awesome. In fact, this data is blowing even me away. When I used language facilitation face-to-face with families, where I visited them in their homes every week before I started using it online, I saw improvement like this, but not this fast. I didn't see improvement within a week, you know, new language like that, until I started using it as a purely parent coaching program. Did I see that kind of improvement? And what's been really exciting is that these 20 families are all over the world. They're people who are communicating with kids who are late talking for many different reasons, and they're all finding improvement. So that's the research, and it was kind of the biggest part of this conversation, because I know that with something new, as parents want to evaluate something and they want to look at it from an evidence base, that is your evidence base that you can look. All right, moving on to some more information about language facilitation. All of that stuff about the research and the science doesn't tell parents very much about what it is and what it does and why it works. So I'm going to get into a little bit more about that now. All right, so the first question I'm going to answer, the next question I guess I'm going to answer is, how is language facilitation different from speech therapy? And there are 3 ways that I'm going to tell you about. And the first is that the parents are the interventionists. So unlike speech therapy, the speech therapist is the one that works with your child. And with language facilitation, it is a parent method. So parents are the ones that use the language facilitation. And then the second reason that, the second way that language facilitation is different than speech therapy is that it happens everywhere. Language facilitation happens from the time that you are waking up your child in the morning, as you get them dressed, as you help them eat, as you help them brush their teeth, as you play with them, as you cart them around to school, as you drag them around in the car, as you visit on vacation. Everywhere you go, you do language facilitation. And so that's definitely what's different about speech therapy. And that, I think, is definitely one of the keys that helped this method works so well for the parents that I have used it for so far, is that it's not so structured that they have to block out special time in their day to want to do language facilitation. It happens naturally during all of the interaction that you do with your child, just like you teach them everything. So if you're teaching your child to pick up after themselves, or put a dish in the sink, or follow some simple directions, or say what they want, ask for the things that they want, or talk about the experiences around them. You do that everywhere, okay? And so the third thing that's different about language facilitation than speech therapy is that it happens way more frequently. You know, in speech therapy, if a therapist comes to your home, you might have some interaction, you know, at least 30 to 45 minutes. Hopefully you'll have some parent coaching in that time. If you take your child to a clinic or a hospital or an office somewhere to get their speech therapy, there's always that transition time, getting in, getting settled. If your child doesn't like the environment very much, you have that kind of transition, and you might only get, you know, up to 20 to 30 minutes in an hour-long session. In a half-hour session, you're lucky if you get 10 to 15 of actual language facilitation going on, because there's so much other stuff going on in the room or in the situation, just getting in there and getting going. So those are some ways that language facilitation is different than speech therapy. All right, so the next thing is who can benefit from language facilitation. This is your way to do the same kinds of evidence-based things that I talked about. This is the way, language facilitation is the way that you as a parent can implement those scientifically proven evidence-based methods, you as the parent. So, you know, it is definitely for parents who want to do the work themselves, okay? So if you are frustrated with other intervention methods that you have experienced with your child, if you're having early intervention come to your home and they're not coaching you, or, you know, you're not getting any benefit, if they're not engaging with your child at all, if your child is starting to refuse other therapies, if the ABA or the speech therapy or the whatever you're doing isn't working for you, then language facilitation may be a way for you to take it on yourself and empower yourself to get it done right, the way that your child learns, you know, from you. And then it is, you know, like I said, for parents who really want to look at an alternative to highly structured methods, because language facilitation is based on play interaction, regular everyday interaction. So it is sort of the polar opposite of ABA or highly structured token economy, stickers on charts kind of intervention. It's, you know, unstructured and spontaneous, natural intervention. So it's for parents, you know, language facilitation is for parents who want the alternative, for sure. And then the next thing I'm going to talk about is, how do parents actually learn? Like, how can parents learn language facilitation? And so there's two ways. You could research these articles that I put in here so you can find out how it works. You could look at my YouTube videos and take that information and try to apply it yourself, because there are parents who have done it. So the first way you could learn about it is to watch my videos and research these articles, because like I said, it's other things that are going on. So you could do language facilitation with your, and the other way is that you could ask your speech therapist how to teach you how to teach your child naturally. And if they give you the floor time, social interaction kind of strategies to use, then you are using, you know, a version of language facilitation. That's one way. And then the other way is you can join the families who are already working with me in the Waves of Communication Parent Coaching Program. And that program is an online coaching program where I teach parents how to be language facilitators. Every family has their own custom designed plan, so that I teach you how to use your intuition to help your child overcome their resistance to using words, which isn't necessarily something that these other programs do, but I do help parents do that, because the idea of language facilitation is that all of these intervention methods are easy, happy, safe, and fun for your whole family. There's no prompting, there's no pulling words, there's no holding things and waiting, there's no asking questions, there's no prompting. It is completely natural language facilitation. And like I said, the closest to it is floor time. So if you can be trained in floor time, then you're probably doing language facilitation. And that would be the only other one. But the thing that's different about waves of communication than those other programs, and that was kind of the next thing I was going to talk about, is that, like I said, it's customized for every family individually. So instead of having to do the research and figure out how to use those strategies yourself and then implement them in a language facilitation model, I teach you all that stuff because I am the speech pathologist. I did come up with these strategies based on all these other methods, and what I do is I teach you as a parent how to use them in your situation. I've got people in the program who have only one child, and I've got people in the program who have a house full of kids. I've got people in the program who have twins and triplets, and the thing is, all of those components, I've got full-time working parents, I've got homeschool parents. You know, every family's circumstance is different, and every family's situation is unique, and every child is late talking for a different reason. And so what I'm able to do with my Families in the Waves of Communication program is come up with their exact plan. So I take all of that stuff that you could read about and put it together for you. And then I coach you one-on-one in how to implement those strategies in your home every day, all day. And then I support you for the entire journey in my Waves of Communication parent coaching community, and my Waves of Communication community can not only benefit from ongoing strategies for the entire process to get their child from nonverbal to chatterbox status, which already is happening for the families that are in 6 months or older. Their kids are chatterbox. We're nonverbal, now chatterbox 6 months later. And like talking nonstop, chatterbox. And it's just amazing. And so the thing is, these families have support the entire journey. So they never have to lose their therapist. You never have to miss a session because your child's, you're always doing the interaction with your child yourself anyway. So that's kind of, you know, like I said, language facilitation works all the time. I just support you as the language facilitator, and it's working right now with families all over the country. And what's cool that I didn't, you know, I was hoping that it would happen this way, but it really is turning out to be great, is that the parents are amazing friends and supports for each other. I get emotional thinking about it because here's these moms who were all so worried. I've talked to hundreds of moms, and these moms are, you know, worse, desperately worried for their kids to want to say words, and just, you know, at their end, whatever they were doing wasn't working. And so now they are seeing words in their kids, and they're all supporting each other. And you know, everybody who's on a journey of any kind will tell you that it's never always smooth sailing. And these parents in the Waves of Communication community are the most amazing supports for each other. I mean, I support everybody. I'm always positive. I'm trying to keep everybody easy, happy, safe, and fun. But the reality of life is that bummers happen. And, you know, sometimes your kids have the flu, and sometimes stuff happens. And so the journey can go like this sometimes, and sometimes they see great improvement, and sometimes their improvement isn't as much, and they want to know why, and they want to know what's going on, and they want to help overcome those problems too. And what Waves of Communication is doing is helping these parents continually overcome every bump in the road to try to keep it as smooth as possible so that everybody sees improvement all the time. They keep each other accountable. I keep them accountable. Everybody records video of their kids every week. They're sharing amazing stories about their kids talking now and saying words and phrases when these parents never, like, never hoped. They didn't know. Their kids have some big diagnoses, and they were told that their kids weren't wired for verbal language, and they were stuck in PECS and ABA and things like that. And these parents are looking at new schools and new environments and new learning opportunities for their kids that they couldn't do before. What we do in Waves of Communication is I show you how to abandon the things that aren't working, but keep the things that are working, and replace the ones that aren't working with new strategies with this transactional communication model and methods that help you facilitate social interaction, real interaction with your kids, including words. And that's the best part about it, because many of the kids in the Waves of Communication program are already communicating with their parents. They are exchanging all kinds of messages. They're just nonverbal. And what Waves of Communication and Language Facilitation does for families is help you teach your child how to change from nonverbal communication into verbal language using easy, happy, safe, and fun strategies. That's what's different about Waves of Communication, and that's why every family in my program, their whole household is happier. And when we as humans try hard to make other people understand our messages, that communication expands like waves, and people teach each other, and that's how we get going. And I get emotional thinking about it, because that's what Waves of Communication is all about. Helping parents teach their late talking children how to share their wisdom with the world with Waves of Communication. Oops, sorry, got a little emotional there. All right, so that's the answers to those questions. And the answer about Waves of Communication and Language Facilitation is that yes, it absolutely is working, but it is not for every family. Like I said, the parents have to be really into this, want to make changes and want to help their kids, and the kids have to be able to communicate with you in a way, even if it's nonverbal. If your kid's sharing messages with you and there's words inside there, but you don't know what they are, then that's a child who Waves of Communication and Language Facilitation can really help, because your child's already communicating with you non-verbally, at least some of the time, and you can change those messages into words with Language Facilitation, because every family in the program has done it so far. And thank you so much to the families who have had faith in this method and understood that it can work for your kids, because you are helping your kids share their wisdom with the world, and that's my mission. So thanks for helping me out on my mission, and thanks for helping your kids, and thanks for watching this video, everybody. If you are interested enough to watch to this point, I know that you want to help your kids, and I know that you want to teach them how to use words naturally. So if you can't do Waves of Communication for whatever reason, do try to do research, do watch my videos, and do get working with your child in this transactional modality, the floor time kind of method. Get out there and play with your kids and teach them how to communicate in easy, happy, safe, and fun ways. Because if it isn't fun, it isn't fun. And if it isn't fun, then it's not Language Facilitation. So I'll leave it right there. Have a great day, everybody, and I'll see you next time when I come live to talk more about Language Facilitation.